Welcome, this is Brian Gibbons, REI trainer for all 50 states. We're talking about prospecting tips for home sellers. So the first box or category is landlords, and then the second one is expireds. The third one is listed with agents or realtors, has a active listing agreement. The fourth one are for sale by owners, FSBOs. And lastly, are properties that aren't listed, they're just living in the house, and they bought at the top of the market 2005, 2008. And they generally have very little equity. So let's go through each one, prospecting tips. The number one thing to remember when you talk to people is what's in it for them. And do you understand their situation? What's important to them? And the only way you can do that is not by what you say, but what kind of questions you ask. You can say to somebody, says, no, I know you want somebody stable in there, Mr. Landlord, but what's more important is that you give them what's in it for them. What is in it for them? So let's start with landlords. What do landlords want? What's the psychology of a landlord? Well, if a landlord has had some bad experiences, they don't want any more problems than they already have. They have a property. What do they want? They want somebody in there that's going to be responsible, and that means paying their rent on time. That's the number one thing they want. They don't want to have to worry about the rent. Second of all, they don't want to be hassled with tenants and toilets at 2 in the morning. Third of all, they want it tidy. They want somebody to treat that house like it would be their own. They don't want anything dangerous happening, like something plugged up and them not letting them know about. They need good communication. So all those things landlords want. And then we're going to go through expireds and what do they want. This is the psychology now. Somebody that has an expired listing tried it with an agent and they're really upset, especially if they just got expired. It's like they got dumped by a boyfriend or a girlfriend. They're really upset. So it's so important when you go knock on the door of an expired is basically say, Mr. Seller, I thought I saw a sign out there. Was this listed with an agent recently? It says, yeah, it was listed recently, but it's no longer listed. It says, oh, would you consider selling it privately? That is a huge, huge plus for them. Of course they want to sell it privately. You know they want to sell it privately, but at the end of the day, expireds, you need to go talk to them. There's something else that you may not know. Okay, you just may not know this. Expireds get marketed to by real estate agents and by real estate investors a lot. So if it just gets expired, people pounce on them because they think that they're in trouble and they're upset. And you're much better off going to the expired and knocking on their door and see if they will talk to you about selling it privately. Okay? That's your best prospecting tip for expireds. And expireds are the best leads. We're going to go back to landlords in a second. Listed with an agent. Well, they want their list price and they want it fast and they don't want any contingencies, and they want their agent to do a good job. That's what listed with agent sellers want. And they're nervous. They're nervous because they don't understand the process. So what I generally do at listed with agents is I go knock on their door and I hand them something. It says, hey, I understand you're listed with Susie at Keller Williams. I hope she does a great job for you. And I hope you get a lot of written offers and you get your price. Now, I'd like to give you some free information about thinking outside the box and helping you sell creatively in case the agent, it doesn't work. So let's see if the agent can get their job done. If they can't, please give me a call. And I'd really appreciate it if you read this information over. And if you like it, just give me a call. It's really, really simple. And please don't lose it. Put it on the kitchen table or tape it to the fridge because you really might need this information in case the agent doesn't perform. And I just say all that stuff to the seller who's selling with an agent. Now, if you are if you are a particular um, if you are a person who has listed the house with an agent and you're talking to them and you are an agent yourself, you can't do this. It goes against your ethics to interrupt or get involved with a seller that's listed with another agent. So you can't do this. Only do this if you do not have a license. So let's go through now FSBOs and how do FSBOs think and what do they want. The biggest thing for FSBOs is they're trying to save money and not have an agent do this job. Market the house, negotiate with the buyer, and finish the deal. Make sure it closes. So what you need to do with the FSBO is basically they want speed and they want their price. So what I generally do is I act as a buyer. Now I know that's a little bit of a bait and switch kind of thing, but I am a buyer. I buy houses all the time. So I don't feel bad about acting like a buyer. But I'm acting as an investor buyer, not as a retail buyer. Now, a lot of investor buyers call up FSBOs, and they want to get the cheapest price, and they'll try to act like an investor buyer over the phone. They'll say, "Well, look, if you want a fast price and you're easy going on the sales price, I'll come by and take a look at it. But I can't give you full price." You don't do that over the phone when you're doing the cash or terms business. You want to act as a buyer and a retail buyer, an FHA loan buyer, and that you're going to live in it. So what I generally do is on a Saturday, I'll go through my FSBO list and I'll drive by and I'll see if the owner is in the property that's selling it for FSBO, and I'll knock on their door and I'll say, "I'd like to be able to see the house. When can you and your wife show me the house?" And some of these people are pretty savvy. They might say, "Are you going to live in it or whatever?" And I just say, I'd just like to walk through the house and see if it's a good house. Would you mind showing me the house?" And I don't usually answer their question. Now that sounds a little evasive, but if you tell them that you want to do a lease option assignment on it or buy it subject to and get somebody else in it, they're not going to show you the house. So I just tell them up front, "I'd like to walk through the house. If I like it, I'll consider an offer. And what can you tell me about the house? When was it built? How much money do you want? Is that price on comps or just what you think it's worth?" Those kinds of questions. Now, bought at the top of the market, 2005, 2008. If you look at a graph of houses and what their values were, the top of the market was around 2005 to 2008. Now, if you got a list of all the houses in a really good school district, a good zip code, and you just sent out postcards to those people, and you basically said, "I will buy your house in any condition. Even if you have very little equity, I can help you." Something along those lines, and just send out postcards to that group of people that bought at the top of the market. You'd be surprised how many people will call you. Okay. A lot of people don't want to even consider listing a house because they bought at the top of the market and they know they have to pay to get rid of it because it's a little upside down. Not a lot upside down, a little upside down. We teach you how to deal with houses that are at 10% equity, 0 equity, or minus 5% equity, or 10% equity. We have a solution for all of those people. So I'm going to go back through this list again. Landlords, they want long-term leases and they don't want any hassles. So what I generally say, my number one question for landlords is, "Mr. Landlord, if I could give you a lease of about 24 months and then pay off your existing financing, whatever you owe against the property, would you consider selling me the house on a rent-to-own basis?" But you've got to start with, that 2-year lease, because that's what they want to hear. They want to hear, landlords want a rental agreement. That's all they care about. All right. So let's go through expireds. They want a fast sale. They don't want any more delays. They don't want any headaches. So I generally, knock on their door and says, would you consider selling the property privately? And they generally will. And they're very excited to see you. They're the best lead for lease option assignments, subject to, seller financing, any of those kinds of things. Listed with agents, I would just knock on their door and give them I use a 3-page letter. And the 3-page letter basically describes all the benefits of what I have. And if it's listed with an agent, it says, look, I'd like to give you some free information. I know you're listed with your agent, but in case that agent doesn't perform and doesn't give you a prospect with the right sales price and the right terms, please keep this in mind for a plan B in case your agent doesn't perform. FSBOs, they want fast sale and they don't want any hassles. They don't want any haggling. They just want the house sold and save some money. So I generally talk to FSBOs and walk through the house, and I said, look, if I could get you your price, but you would be open to a creative offer, I'd really like to look at maybe doing a rent-to-own kind of a situation, but then getting you your price at the end of that lease. Would you consider that kind of an idea, or maybe not? That's my favorite closing question with FSBOs. They get their price, but they're consider creative terms. And if they bought at the top of the market, those people, they're not trying to sell, they're not trying to rent, they live in their house, and you just need to slowly get them information about how you can help them sell even if they have very little equity. And you buy a list, and we teach you how to do that. We teach you how to get postcards out. And those are our 5 boxes for prospecting. I hope you've enjoyed this recording as far as prospecting tips for home sellers. And it really does work, but you got to look at all these 5 boxes. Okay? All right. Thanks for listening. This is Brian Gibbons. I hope you have a good day. Bye for now.